Welcome to another episode of Optimizing Live. Today, I'm really excited. We have Kate Marshall with us today. She is the author of a book titled AI at Work. So thanks for joining us today, Kate. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, excellent. And as always, I'm joined with my pal, Randy.
Hello, everybody. Great to have you here, Kate.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Kate, excited to have you come and chat with us about your new book. So I'll go ahead and tee it up and ask what might be kind of the obvious question that you might get is what motivated you to write this book? And tell us a little bit about how you went about putting it together.
Yeah, absolutely. I work with a lot of different clients and executives, helping them walk through their AI adoption. I work fractionally with organizations as well. And I saw a pattern starting to form time and time again with all of my clients, whether they were Google in the Google ecosystem or inside of Microsoft platforms. I saw that there were a lot of things that I was doing repetitively for non-technical professionals, helping them learn AI. And so we would walk through how to train their different LLMs and things like email and chat and meeting automations is really something that I do with most of my clients. And so walking them through, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And the more people that I spoke with, the more I saw just really needed all of these things written down. If you're starting at baseline 0, or if you are using an LLM, but not knowing that you could use it more effectively. And so I ended up starting these as just notes from my clients and then sharing them with friends and family. And it's evolved into this at this point.
Excellent. So I think I'll do the ubiquitous kind of hold up the book so everybody can see it. So, Kate, what if somebody out there listening to this and maybe they're not technical like me? I don't consider myself technical. I haven't written code in a long time. So for the folks out there that might be wondering, hey, I'm not technical. Is this book something that would be valuable for myself?
Yes, this is exactly who I wrote the book for, are the people that are professionals in the workforce, but they are less technical side. So if you are already creating your own automations, if you're already building your own agents, giving them skills, this isn't really helpful to you. So this book will walk you through starting at baseline 0 of, okay, how to choose which LLM would make the most sense for you. Or if your organization is dictated which one you have to use, how to pick one for your personal use, which is something I always recommend, that you have one for work and for personal, especially if you've got a locked down system at work. But it's really written for your non-technical professionals, small businesses, people just wanting to understand where to start. And each section will build off of the other section, but you can also pop around. So if you just want to turn on voice dictation this week because you know that you're not great at typing, you can just go to that section and really understand how to use it, how to stay safe. And it's all wrapped in a nice clean section based on the different topics. Mm-hmm. But exactly who I built it for is your non-technical professional that has a ton of legacy knowledge, but is really just trying to figure out how to quickly incorporate AI into their work.
So if you hear what Kate's saying, and every time she says LLM, you say, I don't know what that is, this book is for you.
Yes. And with keywords and terms and lists of tools all in the back that explain that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Kate, you dedicated the book to professionals who are quietly wondering if these same tools will eventually replace them. Why do you argue that the people that are reading your book are actually becoming more valuable than less as AI helps to kind of reshape ways of working?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I framed it that way because I work with a lot of human resources departments, and every single person that I talk to is either communicating that fear for themselves or saying, this is what our employees are saying that they are nervous about, that they are just training the machine to eventually take them over. And I'll just start with, there's going to be massive disruption. I don't think anybody is arguing against that. But what that looks like is still really evolving. And the best way to position yourself is to learn these tools and to understand the work that they can do versus the work that we still need that human in the loop for. Mm-hmm. And I am hoping that this is phase one for you to, or for non-technical professionals to really build that AI plus human exoskeleton. It really what we're calling it. It's you are orchestrating with your AI, but you have to start somewhere. And this book was built to help you start from, step 0 to step 1.
Yeah.
All safely.
Yeah, that, one of the sections that really resonated with me was the section you had on learning how to learn. Mm-hmm. And as a coach trainer, I've been teaching, helping people learn for quite a while. So it was really valuable and introspective for me to think, wait a minute, I think I know how to learn, but I also had to acknowledge that on this topic, learning how to use generative AI, I have struggled as a non-technical person. I've gone through my highs and lows of my own learning journey with this. What do you think makes kind of this learning generative AI kind of different from how other professionals may have learned a skill in the past?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is this is not a static tool. This is ever evolving, and there are different use cases based on the work that you do versus the type of AI tools that you have access to. And on top of that, as soon as you learn something, you turn around and there's been an update and it's evolved and it's bigger and better. So it's really difficult to stay ahead. And I don't know a single person that feels like they're checking the box and they feel good about where they are, on their AI learning journey. Everybody is just struggling to keep up with the latest and greatest of these technologies. And when I think about the way people have historically learned information, you're not given customized choices. And we now have access to that, which is awesome. So if you are the type of person that likes to watch tutorial videos and you can understand them that way versus the type of person that needs to have a document right next to you while you are hands on keyboard figuring it out at the same time, there are ways now for AI to customize how you can do that and how you can learn the way that you work the best. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity now with these new tools coming out to help you learn these things faster, but we all have to become students again. And starting at the beginning and feeling stupid and, getting frustrated because you can't figure it out, like that's perfect. Like that is exactly where every single one of us needs to be, because we are all beginners at this, which is great. If you can set aside the time and if you can put the right energy forward, you can really move up quickly.
So you touched on another point that I think is important on this book. And how do you, when you write a book like this and it comes out in print form, how do you deal with, in this case, just the rapid pace of change that we're all seeing with AI? And you address that right up front in the book a couple of times of, by the time this book is published or by the time someone like me is actually reading it, things have changed. So tell us a little bit about how you chose to deal with that as you publish this book.
Yeah, I really struggled with that. And this book just came out a bit ago, but I have been writing versions of it for over a year now. And again, I started with just writing these things down for my clients and then sharing them with others. And I never wanted it to be a book for that exact reason, because it didn't make sense to me that, there are books that a publisher will get the content and then they have to sit on it for 3 to 6 months. And by that time, so much of it's outdated. And so I thought through the only way that I would feel good about having a version of this that's analog, that's paper, which is, something that a lot of people also want to have, when they're learning things, was it had to be a digital version as well that could be updated constantly. Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons why I chose to go with Amazon is because their KDP version of print on demand, there is no stock in these books. There's no inventory. When you hit purchase, they print it right away. So I can update this as much as I want, and then you'll get the latest and greatest version. Or if you purchase the book and are sitting on sections of it for 3 to 6 months, you can just go over to the QR code, and I have the digital version that is constantly being updated online and available for you, because it's the only way. And as I was polishing it up, I was adding things last minute and making changes last minute, because this technology changes so fast. So as long as it's useful to people, until our agents can take all things over and do everything, I'm going to be updating it that way. So, technology is cool.
Yeah, I really love the way you combine that. I mean, for years I've just been digitally, reading, or using tools like Audible. But on this topic, I'm finding for me, it's really working well, because it's a learning guide, and the way that you've designed the book in terms of covering the concept, giving some nice boundaries to that, and then providing activities and things to try. So that combination of digital and printed, for me, is very refreshing, because I'm back to, dog-earing pages and highlighting things and then writing my notes. And then if I have a question, like you said, I can quickly just go find it digitally and then get back to kind of that print. So I'm really enjoying that format.
Good. Yeah. And every section ends with a prompt. So if you are completely stuck, or if you don't want to do the pre-work on the front end, you can literally screenshot, copy over the prompt, put it in your favorite LLM, and it will walk through step by step with you too.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So that kind of segues to one of the things I was thinking about coming into this conversation. You talk about how brilliant people often get stuck in an endless research loop. And that certainly resonates for me. Not that I'm necessarily claiming I'm a brilliant person, but the endless research loop part of it, it's like you learn about things, you keep learning about things, but like the real learning happens when you actually start to establish, compounding habits, as you talk about. Like, let's dig into that a little bit.
Hey, I'm certainly guilty of it too. I mean, the amount of courses that I have taken, that I have committed in my head that, like, after this course, I'm going to get it. And then I'm going to go into build mode. And then whether it's, work is, hectic, or there's a shiny object somewhere else, and it just, you never actually do the work, but doing the research feels like you're doing something.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling to have, but it's not giving you the momentum that you need. Yeah. And so I didn't intend for this to be a sit on the couch, enjoy reading through this book. This is look, you're in front of your laptop and commit to building out one section every week. You build one automation inside of your email, or, setting up the meetings or the voice dictation, or training your LLM. So you're having to interact with it less and less. My goal was for you to actually get real work done and have it, be helpful walking you through. But really the trick is you have to have it open on your system and doing it and making those changes.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a great point, Randy. And I have a kind of a follow-up notion to that. Again, as I'm going through your book, what I'm experiencing, you also talk about the various tools. Obviously, you cover many of the tools that are available to us when it comes to generative AI. And I'll admit that's probably been one of my challenges. I've been dabbling with lots of tools, started with ChatGPT, probably like a lot of people, and started throwing a bunch of other tools into my mix. And what I think I'm discovering is I'm kind of getting distracted by the tools and not having that clarity of focusing on a tool. But you point out in the book, it's not about starting with the tools. It's about understanding the outcome you're trying to achieve and then working toward that. So tell a little bit to our listeners about kind of how in your book you help people navigate that.
Yeah, completely. And I am a huge fan of testing with tools. I think that should be part of what you do in your learning process as well. But if you are constantly toggling back and forth between Claude versus ChatGPT versus Gemini, because if it's in your Google ecosystem, you're not really giving the LLM an opportunity to learn all of the tasks that you have and all of the things that you need. So one of the things that I highly recommend is you choose one LLM for your work, and then you choose one for your personal, and you just stick with it for 30 days. Because you can constantly just chase tools based on, who has the latest shiny, exciting, update out. And so creating consistency with that, the more you use it, the more it learns you, it understands you, and the better your outputs will be. But then I always want you testing new tools as well, because that's how we're going to see the art of the possible. And so I have my daily drivers, and they do their specific things. And then I also have a ton of different tools that I play with and just test them, max them out, see what their capabilities are. So, but a year ago, OpenAI, ChatGPT was my daily driver. I had GPTs galore. I had a whole ecosystem built, and I have just, like many other people, just recently moved everything over to Claude, because Claude Cowork has changed the game for me, honestly. And so I'm moving all of my Manus projects over there, and all of my GPTs over there. And I think we will still see this for a time. And that is if you have flexibility to do that. There are a lot of people stuck inside organizations that they don't have the freedom to move around.
Yeah.
If that is the case, you work with the tools that you have available, you train them to the best that you can, and then you go play, with other ones on your personal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, best way to go.
Love it. I've got one more kind of pre-prepared prompt that I had in mind. The trust, check, reject model. That feels like a pretty important concept, worth maybe talking about a little bit. Kind of share, what's behind that. How should a professional think about evaluating potentially high stakes AI output? How does that protect them from just unquestioningly accepting like just something that's published and might on the surface look good, but might actually be dangerous?
Yeah. So I'll start with this. With that model, it is a 2 to 3 second mental habit. So when I first show this to clients, they're like, you're telling me that with every single Slack message that I get, or with every single email that, AI helps me write, I have to do this? It's like, not really, kind of, but really the scope of that is is this a low stakes output that you can, easily trust? Is it something that content incredibly well, that you can just take a quick look at it and say, yep, that checks out, easy, no big deal? Or is it something that you are building out for the first time and you're having to check sources and make sure that it's actually feeding you the things that are appropriate? Or is it something where you're working inside of legal, or there's personal information that they're asking you to provide, and that is where you can completely reject and say, I can't use an LLM for this, or I need to consult the attorneys, I don't want to get in trouble, things like that. But I would say most people are still living in the quick hits of yes, I can trust this, no big deal, but it is, it sounds more painful or like a longer process of a model than it really is. Our brains, they process it in, milliseconds at this point. But where I see people struggle and where they get really nervous is trying to figure out on the different projects, is this just a quick email where if something's wrong, it's not going to be a big deal, versus is this a gigantic proposal that if something is wrong, sourced incorrectly, broken, is this going to be a really big deal? And so, having that quick model and those buckets that you can put outputs into, is helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's sort of like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Multiplied by like, what's the likelihood it could happen, right? Like if the worst thing that could happen is really, really bad, even if the likelihood is lower, like it still requires more due diligence. Like we've all, I'm sure, heard the stories by now. I've heard at least a couple of times where attorneys file like a whole brief and it states, has reference to a bunch of, cases that don't even exist. And it's like, that's a high stakes, low likelihood, but a little bit of legwork and validation there would have gone a long way.
Yeah, that's where you get that, the check and reject should have absolutely been in that part of the process. And I'm seeing this a lot more with people bringing wearables into the office. So as people are turning on their recording devices, or they're using voice dictation, or, as the meta glasses become more prominent, all of that data is getting funneled into the cloud. And so you need to hopefully be thoughtful about, does this business meeting that I'm in and I, have all of these recordings on for, what are they saying inside of these meetings? Is there private information that I don't want hosted somewhere else on the cloud? And that's going to be a huge mess that, a framework like this will be helpful for.
Yeah. Love it.
Excellent. Yeah, I really do appreciate also in the book, you're really clear with helping the reader understand and think about that distinction of what context am I functioning in at work, however I'm trying to apply these things, and being careful about that. So having written this book, can you tell us a little bit about maybe what's something that you learned as you went through the process of writing and getting this book published, about your own AI journey or just AI in general?
In the process of writing the book, I think I learned where you can lean on AI and where you can't. I got really clear on how training the AI in your tone of voice and writing the way in the style that you want to write will only get you so far. And when I was building each section, if I started the section by prompting and having the AI write it, it came out terribly, versus if I started with, myself as the user, brain dumping everything that I wanted to include in each section and talking through, like, why is this important? Why somebody needs to care about this? When they need to think about security, when a prompt needs to help, what tools can you use? I learned pretty quickly that human first and then AI polishing worked a million times better than if I just started and had AI, create the thing from the beginning, and then have me go in and edit. And so I've actually leveraged that in a lot of other work that I do now. And I find that when I sit down and whether it's writing a long email or a proposal or a presentation, I will actually turn on voice mode and just talk through what I want, what my hopes are for the project, what I want the output to look like, where they need to hit these goals and line these goals, and starting human, having it polish, and then ending with a human review works much, much better at this point.
That's great advice. I appreciate that.
Nice. Yeah. I'll throw in my one final question, which is often effective and extremely lazy. What's one question you wish we had asked you?
I think one of the biggest concerns and issues that I see people struggle with is their data. And so I have an entire section on data hygiene, and it is the lamest topic and conversation, but it is the most important. And especially when we start bringing in automations and agents into your work, you have to think through where your data lives. Is it clean? Is it old? Are you sitting on a desktop full of archived files that nobody cares about, that, you know, are 10 plus years old? And if you're just handing that over to your agent might assume that that those are still valid and still important, and gets things really messy. And so there's a section in the book on that. But I think if there was one thing that I could scream from the rooftops, it's figure out how to clean your data. And these tools are making it so easy right now, like Perplexity Computer and Claude Cowork. You can, at the push of a button, ask it to help you clean up all of your files, and it'll do a really good job with it.
Nice. Love that. That's a great call out.
Yeah, that's a good point that I personally don't think of nearly enough. So, Kate, really appreciate you joining us today, sharing information about your book. Just again, for our listeners out there, obviously go to Amazon, get Kate's book. Trust me, you will find it valuable and useful. We also want to plug, Kate, you'll be speaking at a local Agile Denver meetup next month, I believe.
Yep.
So for any of our listeners who are local or in the Agile Denver community, check that out as well.
Yeah, we're doing that one on everything AI agents. So what are the different types of agents? Where should you start? What should you give it as a first job? And that one's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Agents, you know, it was all about AI and LLMs in 2025, and 2026 is the year of AI agents.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And again, if you've gotten some value out of this conversation, check out our previous Optimizing Live broadcast on LinkedIn, or you can check out my YouTube channel. Look me up. It's at Millennium Coaching on YouTube. Kate, once again, thanks. Congratulations on the book.
Yeah.
And look forward to our next conversation.
Oh, this was great. Thank you so much. Appreciate you both.
Thanks, Kate. Great job.
Thanks.